Hello and welcome everyone. This is Iván Cavielles from La Salle Gijón. In today's video lesson, we are going to revise very quickly the basic word order of an English sentence. A very typical mistake that non-native speakers make is applying to their speech the word order from their mother tongue, creating confusion and ungrammatical sentences that may create misunderstandings. That is why it's really important to know and understand how an English speaker organizes the words in a sentence. The good news is that English is very easy respecting word order, as it mostly follows the same rules all the time and in all tenses. So, if you follow the rules, you will be able to produce grammatically and communicatively effective sentences. Word order in English is sometimes like playing Lego or a baby-shaped toy. There are gaps that we must fill, but only with those pieces which may fit in them. If we use the wrong piece, it won't fit and we can't complete the puzzle. With some help, we may be able to master the word order and produce correct grammatical sentences. Are you ready? An English sentence always has a subject. As English has quite poor verb conjugation, we need the subject to be present all the time to know who is talking in every moment. Then, we need to have a verb which may sometimes require the use of one or more than one auxiliary verbs. After the verb, we may find a variety of complements. Here you can see the complete structure of an English sentence. The words in parentheses are optional. This means that they don't always need to appear in the sentence, or their use could be restricted to certain tenses or sentence structures. Obviously, this is a huge generalization and simplification. Things are neither this easy nor as complicated as sometimes you make them. Let's revise all these parts to understand each of them and the words that have to use in each of the categories. Let's start with the verbs. The verb is the basic word of a sentence, because all the sentence is built around it. They are conjugated depending on the tense we want to express, and in most occasions they require the company and support of auxiliary verbs. I've always said that English verbs are kind of lazy. That's because they don't like to add many things to its base form, that is, the infinitive without to. Let's see how English verbs manage to express, then, all the possible tenses without suffering so many changes as the Spanish verbs do. Take as example the verb ir. Voy, estoy yendo, fui, he ido, vaya, etc. And just for one person, this verb, as you all know, changes in every person, whereas in English we have go most of the time. As I was saying, English verbs are very lazy, but they want to express all types of tenses without carrying so much weight with them, so they ask for assistance to the auxiliary verbs, which help the main verb to carry the negative particle, for example, or to move and change positions with the subject to create questions. In English there are three main auxiliary verbs which will be used depending on the tense we are using. They are do, be, and have. The three of them are conjugated, may take negative particles, and may be contracted. Do is the auxiliary verb we use in simple tenses. Some grammars call it dummy do, because it has no lexical meaning, and for example in Spanish it's never translated. Also, it's the only auxiliary verb that asks nothing from the verb in return for its help. The verb stays in its base form. Thinking of that, I call it kind do instead of dummy do, because it helps and asks nothing in return. Be is the auxiliary for the continuous tenses. In this function, to be requires the main verb to take its gerund form, that is, to add the suffix ing. As we will see later this course, it's also the auxiliary for the passive voice, and in that case, the main verb must take the past participle form. Have is the auxiliary verb for the perfect tenses. It requires the verb to take its past participle form. Finally, modal verbs are also auxiliaries, but a special type. Consequently, we will study them soon this course, and then we will understand in what sense they are so special and how to use them. More than one auxiliary verb is possible and may be present in a sentence in complex tenses, but they always, and I repeat, always follow the same rule. Asking the next verb form, being another auxiliary or the main verb, to take its required suffix, infinitive, ing form, or past participle. Subjects. Subjects are essential in English. An English sentence must have a subject in order to be properly built, and only in certain restricted contexts we can omit the subjects. This is exactly the opposite as Spanish, in which we are omitting the subject most of the time, and it's a very common mistake that Spanish learners make when speaking English. As in Spanish, the subject of a sentence must agree with the verb. That means that the conjugation of the verbs may vary depending on the subjects. However, conjugation in English is much easier than in Spanish, as you all know. Many times we will find simple subjects, as for example pronouns or names, but we may also need to have complex subjects formed with noun phrases. A noun phrase is a combination of words whose core is the noun. The structure of the noun phrase is like this. The basic word we will need is obviously a singular or plural noun. Sometimes we will need to add a noun, an article, like the definite, the indefinite, a, or a demonstrative, like this one, these, because books is in the plural form. Finally, we may add one or more adjectives that will always go before the noun. Be careful, before the noun. And they will never have plural forms. Look at the example we got. These new English books. A complex subject which may be simplified using the pronoun they. These new English books stands for they. Complements in English make use of noun phrases also. They follow the verb to complete their meaning. In some verbs, we don't really need any complement to complete the meaning of the verb, and just the subject is enough. This is the case, for example, of verbs as walk. We can say we walk, and we have a complete sentence which may only add extra information, like how we walk, where we walk, when we walk, why we walk, etc. But most verbs take at least a direct object. These objects tells us about the person or thing suffering the effects or the action of the verb. It's formed with a noun phrase or a complement pronoun, remember them? Me, you, him, her, be careful. Listen to this sentence. Hey, boyfriend eats. Don't you miss anything? Yeah. You'll ask, what? What does her boyfriend eat? In the example, that what would be the direct objects. Her boyfriend eats hamburgers. Now it's a complete sentence. Look at this other example. Her boyfriend has given. Okay, I know. I need a direct object again. Let's check. Her boyfriend has given flowers, right? Well, no. In this case, the direct object is not enough, as there are some verbs which require also an indirect object, again a noun phrase or a pronoun, showing who or what benefits from the action. Let's think. Her boyfriend has given flowers to Mary. There we go, to Mary. But wait, we must also remember that in English we can have this order, that is, subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. Her boyfriend has given flowers to Mary, or the opposites. That is, subject, verb, indirect, direct. Her boyfriend has given Mary flowers. However, as you can see, when we choose this last order, the indirect object loses the to particle on its way. In the previous, her boyfriend has given flowers to Mary. Once we have this basic sentence, the only thing we may need is to complete its meaning, giving more extra information as how, where, when, why, etc. that action or situation happens. We do this by using circumstantial complements which are created using adverbs or prepositional phrases, that is, a noun or a noun phrase or a pronoun introduced by a preposition. The order of these complements is not free. We must also learn how to organize them. First, we must use the modal complement, how, then it comes the place, where, after that the time, when, and finally the reason, why. Taking our example, her boyfriend has given flowers to Mary. Mode, gallantly. Place, gallantly at the restaurant. Time, gallantly at the restaurant for years. And reason, her boyfriend has given Mary flowers gallantly at the restaurant for years because of their anniversary. So we may complete our example adding a modal complement, a place complement, a time complement, and a reason. The only addition to this is to tell you that we may also place a time complement at the beginning of the sentence, linking it to the rest with a comma. For years, her boyfriend has given Mary flowers gallantly at the restaurant because of their anniversary. We got a complete sentence. As you can see, we have just put together the words we want, but paying attention to their correct order in the English language. We mustn't apply the Spanish structure, as it's more chaotic most of the time and creates misunderstanding and ungrammatical sentences. Now it's your turn. Let's stop for a second. We've been reviewing the word order, and before going on with other sentence structures, I must check that you are still with me. I'm going to show you some sentences, but they are disorganized. I will give you 10 seconds to organize the words before telling you the answer. If you need more time, please feel free to stop the video and play it again when you are ready to see the answer. You may write these sentences before you see the solutions if you want. Lego Master will order 1. The solution is, yesterday, my favorite music is sounding at the disco. 2. Get it? The solution is, my sister didn't break the glass intentionally at home last Christmas. Difficult, huh? 3rd. The teacher had sent the email to the student quickly after the class. 4th. The solution is, they will be throwing away the old sofa to the dumpster next week. Difficult? Did you feel it did you feel it was hard? Well, don't panic. Languages are sometimes hard and require to revise. Your teacher will be really pleased to help you with your questions, but maybe it's time to go back a little and watch the video again, especially respecting those sections you feel lost. We have revised the structure for affirmative sentences. Remember, they have a subject, he, may have auxiliaries, is, the main verb as the auxiliary requires, playing, and some complements, baseball on the beach. From this new example, he is playing baseball on the beach, I am going to review the structure for negative and interrogative sentences. In the negative sentences, the structure, there is always at least an auxiliary verb, and the negative particle not will follow the first auxiliary verb. The rest of the structure will stay the same. Most of the time, the negative particles contracts with the auxiliary verb, as you may see in the example. He is not playing baseball on the beach. He isn't playing baseball on the beach. The interrogative sentence in English requires a change in the position between the subject and the first auxiliary verb, most of the time the only one. That's for creating questions. This is known as subject-auxiliary inversion. So, in questions, the auxiliary verb will be the first verbal form before the subjects. When we don't know the information, we will use, for example, is he playing baseball on the beach? Is he playing baseball on the beach? Now, when we don't know some information, we use the WH element, an interrogative particle, which is always the first word in the sentence, keeping the rest of the interrogative structure. Look at that. Is he playing baseball where? Where is he playing baseball? The WH element originates as substitute of the subject or complement it refers to, but it always moves to the beginning of the sentence. Reviewing. In this unit, we have revised how we build an English sentence. As I have tried to explain, it's like a Lego game. We are just placing the elements in the right order so as to create something that works. If we misplace an element, the whole system stops working. These are just the basic rules. You need to revise and study on your own. Also, try to share your questions and work together with friends and classmates. Don't forget that English is a language and the base is to communicate. Finally, don't let everything for the last day, please. English requires daily practice and revision to get good results. Because at the end, English and all other subjects in Bachillerato depend on planning. Organize your study and practice hard. Remember that in this new adventure you will not be alone. Your teachers and classmates will help you bring the best out of you. So, ánimo, and see you in our next video. Thank you for your attention.